So we all know the importance of soil. But how do we build up good soil? And more importantly, how can we build up resilient, nutritious soils in our own urban environments naturally without spending a fortune on fertilizers, bringing in all of these things that come in bags? And ultimately, how do we garden sustainably? Not to have a pretty garden, but to garden sustainably in a way that it produces highly nutritious food. We feed the organisms in the soil, we build up the soil layers to provide incredibly healthy plants like these picante peppers in front of me, which are standing at almost 2 meters tall. I want to show you what I do in my urban food forest and urban gardens so you can see how I'm building up the layers, how I'm building soil naturally, and how I don't actually need to bring in all of these external fertilizers because I'm creating my own. So I was just standing underneath some really tall bushy picante peppers, and they give the perfect foundation to grow shade-loving plants underneath. And that's what I'm doing. Cos lettuce, baby spinach, rocket over here, some chives as pest deterrent. But most importantly, what I'm doing is I'm not leaving the soil bare. I could very easily have these 4 bushy plants and have nothing underneath it. And a lot of people do that. But what you end up with is plants that are occupying different root zones, building soil in different ways. If you didn't have plants here, you would just have the picante pepper roots and that's it. They would occupy one level and nothing else would be happening. So rule number 1 is always grow things and have them in little patches. Here we have a brinjal over here. We have a pumpkin growing in that corner over there. So interplant a whole bunch of different things and make sure you are always growing something. Then if we move these leaves away, I bring you in close and show you, this is probably the most important ingredient to building your soil, and that is mulch. And as far as possible, natural mulches. I collect all the leaves I possibly can, and I'll show you now how I layer them. But leaves are a really great natural way to mulch and build up your soil. If I move these leaves away and I show you, I really wish you could smell this, but if you look at that color, it's pitch black. And then most importantly, if you squeeze it, it makes a ball. You touch it, it just crumbles and disintegrates. So this is really good soil. And what this soil is literally greens from the garden, cut up, layered, and then covered with leaves. And that is it. It's a constant layering like a pizza every season or whenever you have the materials to just keep growing and feeding the soil. There are a lot of worms in here. I'm not going to disrupt the roots too much to look, but there are a lot of worms in here and they are doing all the work for us. And there's one over there, and that wasn't actually too deep. We have a nice little worm over there. So they are doing all the work for us. We spend a fortune on things like vermicompost, worm castings, worm tea, when in essence nature does this all for us. If we just feed the soil, give the worms, give the microorganisms what they need, they will create worm castings naturally. They will provide worm tea naturally. And that's how you get plants that are densely planted like this to all thrive, all be lush, and peppers, which are known to be quite heavy feeders, to grow 2 meters tall, be abundant with flowers, and require 0 fertilizer and 0 input. Those of you that have been watching my channel for a while will know that I love chopping, dropping, the whole concept of no dig. But what we want to do is, here are some bolted celery stalks. I leave them to bolt to bring in beneficial insects. But what I don't want to do is take this stem, yank it out, roots and all, and then I pull out everything it's been doing underground. That is the next thing you need to do, is whenever you harvest plants, cut them at the bases or just below the soil level so that you are leaving the roots in. As the roots degrade, you're giving something for the worms to process and all the organisms. And there's a nice big one, look how thick that is. If I were to show you that, all I'm going to do is take the celery plant I've just harvested, and I'm going to cut it into little pieces. Okay, and then what you end up with is a nice handful and bunch of greens. All you do is you sprinkle that on the top, and you can, we took quite a lot of plants here. This is just one of the stems. You can take all of those and you'll end up with a nice thick green layer. And then what you're going to be doing is, I don't have any right here next to me, but if you had leaves or something, you would then sprinkle the leaves and browns over it. And then what it happens is you then have the layering of greens, which is nitrogens, your browns as your carbons, like you would a compost pile, but you're just doing it on the soil. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like with a finished layering of the soil in a new section that I prepared. Here are all the leaves that I've been talking about. If we move the leaves away, you'll see there's one of the seeds that I've just planted. But here are the greens, the layer of greens underneath that. Put that back, but then I just want to be careful because I've planted seeds. You can see them all sprouting. But if I move this away and I take just a little bit, look at the color of that. It's a beautiful dark black, holding its structure, and all I'm using is leaves and greens. The next thing you need to do is home composting. I pruned some of the trees in the garden this weekend. Just throw it all into a pile. With time, it is going to turn into this. And what this is high quality homemade compost from garden clippings, from the straw and chicken manure, food waste, all of that. And if we clear some of the soil away at the top and go down to the bottom, this is also beautiful, dark compost that is filled with nutrients. This then goes back to the garden. My lady is busy getting ready to lay some eggs. And this is the next one, chicken manure. This is such a good source of nutrients for the garden. And with these beautiful ladies and the eggs they produce, and this. And what this is chicken manure. Chicken manure mixed with straw as a bedding, and these two combined are a great source of fertilizer for your garden. And what we'll do is we'll take this and turn it into this. Now what this is food scraps and chicken manure mixed together. And when this breaks down, also really dark color, but this gives a different type of soil structure with a lot of the straw that's been added in. It's very airy, it's very spongy, but it's another source of high quality compost. So a combination of the previous one I showed you with garden waste and food scraps, this is chicken manure, food scraps and straw, which gives us a different compost, but still free, very good quality compost you can spread all over your garden. So now let's create the layers. What I've done here is, it looks more like browns, but these are the greens. I've left them out just in case they were boiling because this side gets a lot of sun. So I've let them break down a little bit, release some of the nitrogen just so I don't get any heat buildup. But then all I want to do, take the natural compost that I've made in the garden, sprinkle it. I don't want to put it in thick. I don't want a full layer. Yeah, and you can see it's just covered, but it's going to give a lot of nutrients. Then, as I spoke about, here's a bag of leaves I've collected through the garden. Same thing. Just put a nice layer on it. Very importantly, if you find things like this, sticks, twigs, leave it. It's all part of the natural ecosystem. They will break down over time. They'll provide soil structure. And as you add your next layer, these sticks are going to get covered and they're going to aerate the soil. So don't put it on too thick. Don't remove all the sticks. And there you've just mimicked a season change in a forest. all of these leaves will break down pretty quickly, but then with the change of season, I'll cut up pumpkin leaves, all of my annuals. These will go on top as greens. I'll do the next autumn leaf fall on top of that. And you can see how we keep adding layers. We just keep feeding the soil and building up the soil structure. What we can also do is what I want to show you now are some other techniques to composting and building soil, which could really help in urban areas. So within urban areas, what you can do is what's inside here. And that is build up a worm farm. Worm farms are a really, really good way to build up your soil. And if you let nature do what it does, you'll get these guys. And what that was is a black soldier fly. Black soldier fly produce these larvae. These larvae are incredibly efficient processors of waste. So if you see larvae inside your compost bin, don't worry. If I'm going to move this away, and I'll take a handful for you now. See lots and lots of garden waste. It's changed color to a really, really dark color. And it's been quite hot lately, so I think the worms are quite low down. There's quite a few in here. There's a whole bunch of them wiggling around over here. So already, even though there's still a lot of waste to be broken down in here, you can see how the color is this dark black. And that's what people are after, is vermicompost, which is very high quality compost produced by worms. And you can do it yourself. You can do it for free. Make sure you just add in all your food scraps into waste, and then what you'll get is soldier fly on the one side, worms on the other, and another great source of nutrients for your garden, for your food forest, closing the loop, reducing your waste, feeding your garden without needing to buy any additional fertilizers. In addition to the breakdown of soil and vermicompost, worms will also give you worm tea as we move this forward. And this is a really, really good, high quality, expensive fertilizer to buy in the shops. But what worm tea will do is add a whole bunch of organisms back into the soil and feed your plants with a high quality fertilizer for free. And then there are two other techniques which I don't currently have going just because I have too much going on. And that is, you can create a bokashi setup, which I've done some videos. I will put some of the footage here so you can see. Bokashi is incredibly effective if you are in a very limited space. You can basically compost all your food waste on the size of a tile. So apartments, all of that, bokashi is a really good option. The only difference with bokashi is you need to buy the brand that contains the microbes to break down the soil. So if you want a completely zero input environment, bokashi might not work. If you want to just get started, you want to completely eliminate your food waste, and you're not quite concerned about bringing any external factors into your garden, then bokashi is going to be an incredible solution for you. Another one tied to bokashi, which Earth Probiotic do, is the Earth Factory. Now, Earth Factory is bags. You put all your food waste in, like I done in the garden with the layering. You layer food waste with some compost, food waste, compost, food waste, compost, and over time that bag converts into a bag of really, really good compost. I'll tag that one in for you as well, that you can see. So in summary, you have so many options in building your soil naturally that you shouldn't need to go buy compost. You shouldn't need to buy mulches. The trees in your environment should give you more than enough mulch than what you can handle. If you're in a neighborhood, ask your neighbors. Put it out on community posts. Collect people's leaves. Store them in a corner. Store them in bags for when you need them. Leaves are free. Leaves are natural. You can add hardwood mulches. They're going to take a long time to break down and will impact the layering. Straw, also a good option. However, with straw, as I've said in another video, you can't control what has been sprayed on the straw. That's why what I like to do is the straw will go to the chickens with their manure, that will break down, and the chicken manure generally you compost for a lot longer. So by the time I use that broken down straw in the garden, any herbicides would have been worked through the guts of the worms in any case. So try as much as possible to use leaves and organic matter. It's readily available. Stop buying things in. They all come in plastic bags. Those plastic bags need to go somewhere. Same with the fertilizers. You have so many different ways to create fertilizers. But in essence, build soil naturally. Stop bringing in all of these external things. Go to forests, mimic nature, and I promise you, the results you are going to get are going to blow your mind. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please spread it out to your communities, and please subscribe to the channel so you can see what these plants are going to do for me in my long-term journey and what the soil is going to do to give these plants what they need. Until next time, happy growing.